Okay, good morning, colleagues. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We've had an eventful week last week where a plethora of things happened. Just a reminder that the government of St. Lucia handed over 3 new vehicles to the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. 57 beach rangers took their oath and were granted powers of arrest. 62 special police constables completed training, supported by the restoration of the police training vote. And just to remind you, just last year, 79 police officers graduated, and we can look forward to 80 new recruits. And this is all supported by the restoration of the police training vote by this government. On Friday, March 14th, Anchorage on the waterfront officially opened its doors. And if you didn't know, Anchorage is operated by the St. Lucia Marketing Board, and the facility houses 22 new shops. On Saturday, March 15th, St. Lucia hosted the CONCACAF Congress at Royalton. And on Sunday, March 16th, the Prime Minister's Independence Cricket Finals was hosted at the Mindu Phillip Park, in which Babo emerged victorious. And at that event, the Prime Minister announced a further $500,000 injection into sports, and that $500,000 will go towards the purchase of sporting equipment. Now, prior to that, the Prime Minister had announced a $1 million allocation. So currently, the allocation is no longer $1 million, but $1.5 million to go towards the purchase of sporting equipment. And this happened yesterday. Just a few announcements. Cabinet considered a memorandum dated the 23rd of February 2025, submitted by the Department of Economic Development and the Youth Economy, and approved the request for a loan application not exceeding $22,822,181 from the Caribbean Development Bank, or the CDB, to assist with financing the John Compton Dam raw water pipeline replacement project. The final announcement. Cabinet also considered a memorandum dated February 4th, 2025, submitted by the Department of Education, Innovation, Science, Technology, and Vocational Training, and approved the implementation of a Ripe Banana a Day initiative for all primary and secondary school students. Cabinet requested the submission of a full operation plan for this initiative, inclusive of proposals for waste disposal, by the 28th March 2025. Now, with that, I welcome Honorable Dr. Virginia Albert Poyet to the podium. She's the Minister for the Public Service, Labor, and Gender Relations. Honorable.
Good morning, all. And it is my pleasure to share with you the joy of the Babo constituency today, where the Babo cricket team emerged the champion for the Prime Minister's T20 cricket competition. And I do celebrate, I commend the Babo team, I congratulate them for their efforts, their endurance and perseverance, and for them to achieve that goal. This achievement did not come just in isolation. As parliamentary rep for the last 3.5 years, I have given tremendous support to cricket and football in Babo. We have had an annual parliamentary rep cricket tournament where we have about 9 teams that compete in Babo. So we have done that for 2 years in a row, and they're just getting ready for the 3rd one. I also give financial support to the tournament. I have given them up to sometimes about $10,000 worth to assist them in organizing themselves. So I'm very pleased that the efforts are actually bearing fruits. And we will organize them and bring them together and continue the celebration as they prepare for a lot more as we move forward in preparing and helping the young people find avenues for them to use their energy and to develop their skills. I'm also happy that the Prime Minister is actually bringing in some professional league into the cricket, so the cricketers will get a chance just like the footballers. I have also given tremendous support to football, where last year I gave them an amount of $10,000 to the Babo Football League so that they can organize football among the teams in Babo. And we are just getting ready for another football tournament in Babo. This tournament will be co-sponsored by Skyride. The Skyride in Babo has decided to come to support the young people in the constituency. In addition to just the game, we are also placing heavy focus on the playing facilities at Babonneau. Babonneau has 4 major playing fields. 2 of them are primarily for cricket and 2 are for football. The first project that will roll out in terms of opening it will be the Babonneau playing field. That was just an open area, and to a large extent it was not up to par. And to date, we are almost completed with the fencing of this playing field next to the Babonneau Secondary School. In fact, the children in the Babonneau Secondary School have not had the opportunity to utilize that field for a while. So we had to do the complete resurfacing of the field. We have already done the fencing, and we are about fencing. It will be enclosed for the first time. And this field can also be used for public events like shows and other activities we want in the community. So the people are actually waiting for them to utilize that space. In the case of Lague, they have started some work in the Lague playing field. And the Lague playing field will be used for 3 different types of sporting events: track and field, football, and cricket. And Debara is a playing field primarily for cricket. I have also constructed 2 toilet facilities, one in Debara and one in Foaso. And we are just about starting a 3rd facility for the Balata playing field. The Balata playing field, in fact, attracts international players and persons like Darren Sammy and other British players come to play cricket in Babonneau. So we'll be able to accommodate them now that we'll be able to put proper toilet facility in these areas. So we look forward to a very exciting period for sports for our young persons in the Babonneau constituency. So once again, congratulations to Babonneau team. And we also congratulate Castries Central, because the finals was between Babonneau and Castries Central. And the game was a very well thought out match. The Prime Minister was present, the Minister of Sports was present, and I was there cheering Babonneau along. So we are very happy that we are bringing that reward home to the tune of, I think, $25,000 and the other goodies that go with it. So Babonneau is celebrating now. I also, as parliamentary rep, I am somebody who really make time to engage the community. And on Thursday last week, we had a town hall meeting, and the turnout was huge. The people did turn out, and in that meeting, they asked a number of questions. They gave a number of suggestions on how we can improve Babonneau as a constituency. And it's one where I have put structure in place in Babonneau. There are 18 small communities in Babonneau. And these communities, they have their own development committees where they identify what is priority for their community. As parliamentary rep, my role is to respond to the needs of the people. And to a large extent, they express satisfaction with what they have seen so far. And they made some suggestions on some of the little things that we need to improve. So I'm very happy that the people did find time to engage me and to discuss issues that impact Babonneau and where they would want to see us moving forward.
Yeah, are you going to contest the seat for the next general elections?
Well, I have expressed interest in contesting the seat for Babo, but the Labour Party has to go through its process of candidate selection. So I cannot say I will be the one contesting the seat, but I have expressed interest.
I have a lot of persons looking at you not supporting the community on doing justly or to what you do, but there are a lot of people saying that you're not well loved in the community. What would you say to them?
I'm not well loved in the community. Well, at the end of the day, you should have asked them why they do not love me. Because there is something about what we call projects and contracts. And this is the first time I think Babono people are experiencing this thing. They don't know what it is about. And some people are hooked onto whether they get a contract or whether they don't get a contract. However, if you drive through Babono, you would not see any big infrastructural project in Babono. Because of the topography of Babono, I focus a lot on the needs of the people in the inner communities. So when you drive on the main road, you would not see the hundreds of drains I have done, because Babono is a very hilly area. And when it rains, a lot of people have problems with water coming in, out from their homes or into their neighborhood. So I have constructed hundreds of drains. We have taken care of the footpaths. We have built over 6 bus shelters. We have repaired all the community centers. All of them now are human friendly, where the people in the community can gather now in a decent environment to have meetings and community activities. We completed the Babono, the Lage Primary School, which is a smart school, and that cost government $7.3 million. We also did the water treatment plant for Debara. This is the first time that people are having proper potable water, and their water is not coming from Wasco. It's coming directly from La Saucier. So when people will have problems with water shortage, the Debara people will not have that problem because their water is not coming from Wasco's major reservoir. So that cost $1.3 million. We actually did the pre-K classroom in the Babono Primary School. We did a new office for the principal of the Babono Primary School. We did the repair for the Fonso school. The roof was leaking, and government spent about $175,000 to do the damage on that roof, because these concrete roofs, they always have issues. And all the toilet facilities at Fonso were replaced, because when they built that school, the type of toilets they put there were for domestic use. But they had to put commercial toilets. So they had to replace the toilets because the children use the toilet on a regular basis, and therefore they damage a lot of the toilets. And we had to put very solid public use or public facilities that can withstand the pressure of constant use. So that is what happened in the Fonso school. And for those persons who may believe that my passion is education, and I have always paid close attention to the education system. And in that case, I visit the schools every term. I ensure that I do not go with my hands swinging. I actually bring a check for the principals at the school. I engage the children. And from secondary, we have 7 schools in Babono. And I visit every school, every term in Babono and engage the students. I actually provide support to the school. I attend the graduations. So at the end of the day, you do what is best for the people. You respond to what they ask you for, and you try to give them the best service. So that's the best I think I can do for them, given the resources that we have. As you know, the government inherited a country that was in a very poor shape. We had a lot of debt that we had to honor, and there wasn't much for infrastructural work. However, the people in Babono have not asked for any big infrastructural work. Although they have not asked, as parliamentary rep, I have committed and I have gotten the support of the Prime Minister to engage in what we call a few of the mega projects. The mega projects, we call them projects that would cost over $1 million. So we have about 5 or 6 of these projects that are ready to start as we speak now, because we are looking at, we have a connecting road between Gara and Bogies. And once we connect that road, it will create a free flow of traffic, because these two communities are almost like dead end. And it's very difficult at a certain time for the people to get transport to get into Castries. So once we connect these two roads, the traffic will be able to flow right through and make life easier. The other area where I have given tremendous support to Babo is in the field of agriculture, because Babo is the breadbasket for St. Lucia. And you would have noticed that maybe a few weeks ago, there were no cucumbers on the shelf in the supermarket. And I visited the farmers last week, Wednesday, and they told me as soon as we put out the cucumber, everybody started getting, it's Babo that produced the cucumber. We also produce about 50% of the watermelons that come on the shelf or in the supermarket. 50% of these watermelons come from Babo. And most of the farmers in Babo have moved away from bananas, and they have moved into short-term crops and vegetables. So a lot of what you get on your shelf, we supply the hotels, all these are coming from Babo. And interestingly, government was distributing 1,000-gallon water tanks, and there were 1,000 tanks to be distributed island-wide, and 350 of them went to Babo. That tells you the number of farmers we have in the Babo constituency. So definitely, I am reaching out to as many people as possible, but as you said, we cannot please everybody.
I know that there were plans to establish Babo as a town. Any updates in that regard?
Yes. If you come in, you will see that we are already working on the center, because the area we are defining as the town, that has been the beginning of the Babo community. Everything else came after. The church that is there was built in 1947, and it's a massive stone structure. We have the Babo Secondary School right there in this location. There is the Babo Health Center, where we are starting some work in terms of making it a smart health center, and government is going to spend over $1 million to upgrade that health center. We have the police station, we have the fire station, we have supermarkets, we have the post office. All we are missing in Babo to make it a little town would be some of the basic little business facilities right there in the gap. And therefore, we have persons who have expressed interest in bringing their businesses closer. Once we get this going, then I think the Minister of Local Government will be ready to upgrade Babo to a town or a village. They have to decide the criteria as to whether we qualify for a town or whether we qualify for a village. But as you move around the island, all the villages and towns, you look at what facilities they have that made them a town. And Babo it qualifies for that in terms of the facilities we have there.
Beautiful. And going back to the sports facilities, any plans to upgrade any of those fields into maybe like a mini stadium similar to what we see in Rosita?
Well, the only one that is close to that is the Babo playing field, because we enclose it and we'll be putting seating arrangement, we'll put the lights. But the others there are 3 other major playing fields in Babo that already have lights. We are just getting ready for the 4th one. And we have a sitting area for the Lager field. We are putting a canteen next to it, and we'll cover the stands. So that would be more or less, and they have some side metal stands. So we want this field to have 3 types of games: track and field, football, and cricket. So it will be maximized in terms of use, because sometimes you have these facilities there, and once in a while you have some activities on these fields. So we want to ensure that we bring in a number of different sporting activities so that the people in the area will make maximum use of the facility.
Madam Minister, you focus on the agriculture in Babo. Within Babo has some, entrepreneurs in the agriculture field, and like you say now, a lot of emphasis on the farmers producing more crops. What about the agro-processing? I know there was one time talk about agro-processing plant, and the emphasis on agriculture and for young people to get into technology, the different, variations of agriculture. How prospecting is that field, in terms of employment, food security for the country.
Yes. Now we have an agro-processing plant. We had one in the Fonso area, and that agro-processing plant was leased to an individual to do chocolate making and so on. Government has since cancelled that lease so that we can go back into the agro-processing. So we have the Taiwanese that are working with us, and what we intend to do is to bring it back in operation so that the farmers can sell their produce to the agro-processing plant and produce a lot of the local juices like they used to do before. So the facility is available now for us to put it back in action.
Considering that, the wealth of agriculture production, do you think it would be a good thing now to get the schools more involved in agriculture, seeing that that's a community that thrives on produce?
Well, interestingly, most of the schools in Babono are involved in agriculture. They have their greenhouses and they actually produce in Foaso has, Dibara has, their greenhouses, Babono Primary, Babono Secondary. So most of the schools have access to land where they engage in agriculture in Babono.
So you think this is a good, building platform for the Babono community? Agriculture will be something that will thrive?
Yes, we are looking forward to instilling it in among our young people to continue, because basically over the years agriculture has been the livelihood of Babono people. In the time of when bananas had their glory days, Babono, everybody had their FAR, everybody was able to build their big homes and everything. That's what helped Babono send their children to school, to university. So we have relied heavily on the land, and that is why we want to coin Babono as agro-tourism community. So agriculture is our base, and then we supply the tourist industry. So the two industries can link up together to support each other.
Yes, so you mentioned that the back to sports story. You mentioned that there will be a bridge of food. Will you get any sporting equipment?
Yes, definitely. I'm in conversation with the Minister of Sports, and we will get our fair share of sporting equipment. I think most of the funds for the project is one where the minister is looking at upgrading Debara for now. Debara is a very lovely field. You overlook the Atlantic Ocean. You look at the Grantans Beach, which is the longest white sandy beach in St. Lucia. And it has a very spectacular view. It's one, and the place is cool and fresh. And he's focusing on this field to upgrade it.
My next question is a two-part question. There have been some deeply insulting sexual innuendos directed at women in politics. What is your message to men and women who insist on that kind of rhetoric? And is there still a place for it in our politics? And as a female politician, how do you deal with those things?
Okay. Well, there is something where you call the culture of politics. And it is not easy to change it overnight. What you need is to learn how to manage the situation. And it is the new approach that will begin to change. If you start doing the same thing that has been done in the past, then you become part of it. So you have to begin to change the approach. And I did mention that it is an area that women are afraid of going into. And people said it's because, of the kind of attacks and personal attacks and trying to undermine and degrade women. So women are afraid of going there. Having gone into politics, maybe some people may say, okay, well, maybe I'm a little more experienced than young politicians. But I think you need to overcome that fear. And you overcome the fear by getting into it and getting the support of the people around you. Because it's very easy for people to latch on to negativity. They follow all the negative things and they get carried away, they get discouraged. I'm just encouraging women that if you decide to go into politics, just stay on the positive side. There will always be negative, but always try to listen to the positive, because the negative could drain you out, it could discourage you, frustrate you, and then you give up. That's the whole idea. So you stay with the positive. And interestingly, people believe that when women go into politics, men are against them. That's not true. Men are very supportive of women in politics. Men and women will do the same thing, whether you're a man or a woman. So when people attack you, whether it's a woman, whether it's a man, do not take it personal. Just remain focused on what is it. Once you are genuine, you want to support the people, the attacks will not break you down. It's when, if you have an ulterior motive, you have another agenda, then all these other little things serve as distractions, and you may fall for it. So I encourage women to prepare. You don't go into politics if you don't prepare for it. Not because somebody call you and say you have to be a candidate and overnight you just feel, okay, well, I'll get elected and I'll go to parliament. And no, you have to prepare. You have to prepare. It's like going to school and preparing to be a politician. And they will give you every step of the way what you have to do. And you cannot fail if you prepare to go into politics.
A very busy weekend for you and fantastic weekend for you. Football.
We're going straight to questions.
Yes.
That's right.
It seems so. We've got 6 minutes.
Okay,
order. Line the table.
Statements.
Okay, so
One of my question.
you have a gentle speaking.
Yes, my question was 3 rules.
I hope all of this is recorded. This is nice.
Are you going to announce something to us?
Well, I guess the questions are partly what I was going to announce anyway. So good. Yes.
Speak.
Mhm.
He's going to speak, and then we're going to have some questions.
Yeah.
Fair enough?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead.
Make sure you focus on content.
Love the excitement in the room. Okay, St. Lucia successfully hosted the 40th edition of the CONCACAF Congress last weekend. We welcomed the likes of Gianni Infantino, who's the president of FIFA, to our shores. And for all intents and purposes, he was immensely impressed with St. Lucia, not just the beauty of the island, the organization of the conference, the logistics, the hotel accommodations, the collaboration with the St. Lucia Football Association, the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports, and the Ministry of Tourism. He did mention the fact that St. Lucia continues to punch above its weight as it pertains to sports development in the region and indeed in the world. And as a Minister of Sport, I can say that this is another feather in our cap as St. Lucia continues to be considered as the premier and the fastest growing sports destination in the region. And this is not a statement just by me, but by many of the other individuals in the room from the 41 countries. We've seen tremendous success, of course, at the Olympics, hosting of the World Cup, and now hosting another event on the global stage, the Congress. So congratulations to St. Lucia. I'm also going to announce that the Sports Academy is on top after the field events of this year's Island Champs, followed closely by defending champions View Fort, no surprise there, and Leon Hess also in that mix, no surprise there as well. We will be having the track and field qualifiers today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, and the big event this Sunday at the Sucre Mini Stadium from 1 p.m. Will it be View Fort again, or will it be the likes of Leon Hess Comprehensive Sports Academy, St. Joseph's Convent, and SMC? Congratulations also, Lyndon Cooper, president of CFU, Caribbean Football Union. Another indication that we do have the capabilities in St. Lucia to be leaders. As you know, Lyndon Cooper has been part of the St. Lucia Football Association for a number of years now, and it speaks volumes when the president of a regional body comes from St. Lucia. And we have the likes of Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, Guyana, all having individuals who are capable. But St. Lucia's Lyndon Cooper, elected, unopposed, president of the region's governing body for football. Huge feather in our cap as well.
Speaking about the administration, we often speak about obviously athletes developing discipline and growing themselves. But isn't there a need to develop the administrators as well to deal with these athletes? So we don't, I guess, waste the talent?
Absolutely. Administrators are very, very important. Just as refereeing, I am indeed concerned about refereeing in St. Lucia. A lot of it culturally has really, culture of St. Lucia towards referees, some of the things we say to them at playing fields, we know what happens, has really discouraged young people from going into refereeing. So that is something that we're looking at closely in collaboration with the St. Lucia Football Association. Administrative workshops is something you will hear a lot about going forward. We did have, I remember in my first year, some conversation with administrators across the sporting spectrum on how it is that we can move forward. But capacity building is one of the things that we focus on and we continue to focus on as we move sports forward. This year, we will be allocating some finances into ensuring that we have alumni associations across the island. We've tried to have this done independently, schools doing it, but we are going to take it a step further because we know alumni associations are really going to change the landscape of sports in St. Lucia. The likes of St. Mary's College, we really do believe that St. Mary's College sports, if held on a Sunday, could be the biggest sporting event in St. Lucia. Bigger than Black Art, bigger than semi-pro, bigger than CPL. I truly believe a school with past students from St. Mary's College, if they organize themselves, they can have a family fun day on a Sunday afternoon into the evening that would fill up Darren Sammy Stadium like no other. We certainly hope that the other schools like Leon Hess and St. Joseph's Convent, Castries Comprehensive, with students that are influential, past students that are influential in society, can really come together to develop the school sports program. And so we will be identifying an individual who will be going into the schools to put the dynamics together to set up alumni associations. So by next year, when we have the sports activities going on, we'll see more of them on the weekend, more of them better organized, and bringing in more parents and society into the sporting landscape of St. Lucia in the schools.
But you mentioned earlier that they're going to be adding additional 500K to sporting equipment. Where would that sporting equipment go to and what kind of sporting equipment?
Okay, so we're looking at, the Prime Minister did announce an additional $500,000 in sports equipment. He previously indicated that he was going to spend $1 million, but we've seen the benefits of doing that. We as a government, we have spent significantly on sports equipment to be placed in the communities. And so the idea is to bring in football boots, bats, helmets, gloves, volleyballs, basketballs, to ensure that the young people in the communities, and again, I focus on in the communities that cannot afford those gear, can get it through the parliamentary reps, through the associations in the individual communities, to really get that level of support for the less fortunate. This is a government that has removed the VAT on sporting equipment for St. Lucians, and we've removed property tax on any organization setting up on land or property in St. Lucia. And we're going a step further by, actually ensuring that in terms of track shoes, sneakers, that sort of thing, that we have that on ground for young individuals that are interested in sport.
Sports academy, because I know you're focused on the North, but will there be projections of other sports academies within the country? And then what are you actually going to do to, since you're getting more money, will you be heavily focused on the sports academy?
The sports academy does not fall under the purview of the Ministry of Sport. We do provide some technical advice from time to time, but it's an educational institution. And so as much as possible, when we can, given the amount of students in there, we can provide some form of support in terms of gear to those athletes, because generally that's the elite of St. Lucia at that age group at the sports academy. So this is where we at. We do not see a situation where they will not benefit from a government pumping in $1.5 million in sports equipment. And so we just looking forward to that being on ground within the next couple of months and to see even more being done. This is pretty much the most we've seen in terms of focus on athletes and their performance in terms of a high performance center of football, what's happening in the primary schools with Earl Bologja and of course Coach Stuart Charles, the actual focus on a pyramid of sport into high performance. This is going to be a huge game changer. We are going to be announcing a date for the opening, the ribbon cutting of a brand new state-of-the-art gym at the Mindo Phillip Park. I'm looking forward to that because the strength training is going to be another big part of what we do in terms of giving St. Lucian athletes a competitive advantage.
You, the Congress had a lot of in-house discussions, but you mentioned that there would be some interaction with these officials and delegates. What would you say was some of the major takeaways, or some of the major takeaways from that?
St. Lucia actually having a semi-professional league. I think most of the countries, you have to understand that sub-region include countries like Mexico, include countries like Nicaragua, Panama. How it is that these countries could actually, support St. Lucia as a small island. Most of the persons I interacted with, the first question they asked was, what's the population of St. Lucia again? And every time I said between 180 and 185,000, they were just flabbergasted by the fact that we've been doing so much as a nation as it pertains to sports, especially football. And so we have some commitments, of course. Commitments sometimes are words. We're looking to follow through and see how much we can get. I've always asked for more footballs. I really want to see a day where every single young primary school footballer can have access to a football. So even when they wake up in the morning, not necessarily even close to a field, they can just go and start working and keep it up, which helps them with control and composure and all the things. So we really want to get to a point where every single footballer in every primary school at every beginning of the term, the school year, have their own personal football, for instance. So every track and field athlete, I would really want to see the day that every single one of them that are part of a club have access to a track shoe, because these are the things I just did not have.
Final question for me.
One something.
I attended multiple school sports events during this season. Multiple schools, some more organized than others. I want to ask a question. Do you think that there should be a central body that just manages school sports to keep it uniform, keep it organized, that type of thing? Yeah.
A school sports commission. We've been talking about a school sports commission, and we do have the skeleton of a school sports commission. That is something that has been ongoing. We do have individuals from different sectors as part of that organizing body, but we have a situation where this is dynamic and fluid in the sense that schools are under the Ministry of Education. And a lot of the times you have those little challenges as a Ministry of Sports in terms of implementing, and there are boundaries to what the Ministry of Sports can do with a school institution. I think my ministry is always willing to provide that level of support. But we've had a lot of conversation as to whether or not school sports, considering all the decisions seem to be made by the school and not necessarily the ministry, whether or not it should fall under the purview of the different schools. But we continue to collaborate to see how it is that we can streamline that. And I truly believe that when we identify a couple of persons, north, south, east, and west, to really go into the schools to start putting in structures in terms of associations, past students, corporate society, technical people, I think that would help a lot in organizing the different schools and try our best to actually bring those schools that seem to be lagging behind up to the level of a St. Mary's College and a Leon Hess and a Castries Comprehensive and Viewfort, of course, Viewfort being the gold standard of sports development in a school. You see Viewfort having coaches, you see the families, you see society, you see cheerleaders. I mean, any school just needs to see and find out what's happening in there to understand why they're back-to-back champions. And for all intents and purposes, given their placement just behind Sports Academy in terms of field events, it's very difficult to catch them on the track. So go figure.
We'll take a final question.
Well, with the upgrading of the fields, any Brazil is doing the share. I don't know if this spoke about the Babo playing fields. Yeah? There was a time we had an influx of visiting schools and visiting clubs. Is that enhance that kind of movement?
Absolutely. We are very close to commencing work on 12 playing fields, 12 facilities, because we have some courts. Yesterday we broke grounds at Zeno in Sucre, where they will be getting a multipurpose court. The VG playing field work commenced today on the VG playing field, specifically the stands and the dressing room area, the perimeter wall. The work is scheduled to start at the end of this month on the perimeter wall, and very early in April, we'll see the commencement of works on the lights. at the VG playing field. Leclerc is set to be started in that time frame as well. Philip Massey Grounds continues to get that level of attention. The washrooms have been dealt with. The lights should be on ground in the next couple of weeks for us to really enhance that playing area. Facilities like Grand Riviere, Wen playing field, and a number of facilities, under that government loan guarantee, are scheduled to really see the improvement, the commencement of work, and the completion. We are hoping that most of those fields will be completed by mid-June, towards the end of June, July. So it will definitely help out with the ministry's programming and the association's programming, because we know we always struggle with venues for cricket, football. So we're expecting that we'll be able to spread our utility of playing fields more into the south, more on the east coast with the Wen playing field, and more on the west coast, as well as ancillary and canneries are both expected to get attention in that time span. And of course up north with Grosley, Grand Riviere, and Moshi getting some attention, and the likes of Leclerc and the start playing facility. We've seen the work at the Mindofili Park. We expected to see some additional work in there, and so for that time span of June, July, for us to see a grand opening there as well, in terms of what we've seen. Marshall Grounds work continues there, and so we're certainly hoping that we will have more than enough facilities. We can never have enough facilities going forward, so that by the end of this year, whatever organization who's willing to bring down students to enjoy St. Lucia Sea and Sand and sporting facilities, they can do that comfortably, and schools can have alternative venues to host their events as well.
Good morning, members of the press. Good morning. So it's so good to be with you. I see we all in smiles this morning, so that's pretty good news. You won't be too difficult on me today, would you? Yeah. Yes. So I thought it was important to address the matter of the IMF's report that St. Lucia was experiencing strong economic performance for 2024. I think it's a very good signal that the stewardship of our Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, Philip J. Pierre, is in fact exactly what we all hoped for and continue to support. We are very clear in our minds that whatever we do for the benefit of the people of St. Lucia, and that's why it's important for us to have a growing economy, reduce unemployment, reduce interest rates, and a very general, favorable working environment for our companies. I would like any questions from you. I'm not sure if you actually received that article, that report from the IMF. Did anyone see it? Okay, we will share it with you afterwards, and perhaps you may have some follow-up questions next Monday, and perhaps I could come to address those as well. So over to you, whatever you want to discuss.
We have heard of, at least seen some reports that there might be a challenge with St. Lucia and the US in terms of immigration. Mm-hmm. From a financial perspective, if that should be the case, how would that affect us?
I think first of all, we need to be careful insofar as what we represent and repeat. When you ask many people, have they actually read the St. Lucia Times article? Most of them say to you they have not. There has not been any official correspondence from the US government indicating to us we have 60 days to do anything, otherwise face certain sanctions. I imagine the Minister of Foreign Affairs will also be here to address you, and he will reiterate this thing. We've not received any communications in that regard. However, the pursuit by the opposition in the way that they continuously put out misinformation is a very dangerous precedent. And only last week in Parliament, I was urging the leader of the opposition, when we represent the government or people of a country, we may not always agree, but I think there are certain things we should take very seriously, and we should all gather around to support it. This country has been managed since 2021 by a prime minister who has been very, very fair, very transparent, and very open in everything you do. If, for whatever reason, and let's be clear, if for whatever reason there is such an incident, it will be very disastrous to us from an economic point of view, because we have tourists who come from the US who visit St. Lucia. We have St. Lucians who also go overseas to do to get their shopping to come back to sell to St. Lucians. So it's a very serious concern, and we're taking it very seriously. But I'd like to reiterate, we have not received any official correspondence indicating that we should do anything in 60 days' time.
Regarding the same thing,
Yes.
information, this is, as you said, it is a draft list,
Yes.
right? I mean, from your perspective right now, why would St. Lucia be placed on such a list? What are the possible reasons? I mean, that St. Lucia could even be on a draft list, even if it's not final, but why would St. Lucia be there?
Forgive me, but I'm not very good at speculating. So I won't be able to answer you what are the reasons why we would be on a list. What I can say to you officially, we have not received any correspondence in that regard.
And within the wider concept, you know, I mean, there's different different aspects of immigration, foreign. What is CARICOM's role in that? And first, in getting like a small island and St. Lucia, how could CARICOM strengthen or galvanize St. Lucia's representation on the global scene?
I think before we even get to CARICOM, we remember the OACS. I think we should have a common position from there and then take that position to CARICOM. I've heard the statements from the Prime Minister of St. Vincent. I've also heard the statement by the Prime Minister of Barbados. And they're both speaking from different perspectives. I came here to discuss the matters with regards to the Ministry of Finance and the economic performance. When the Minister of Foreign Affairs addresses you very shortly, I think you should address that specific question to him. I'll be speaking outside my particular expertise or the ministry in which I reside.
I want to ask a question about the youth economy agency.
Yes.
Given the IMF's response
Yes.
report,
Yes.
do you think that there is any input from the year that has influenced this new findings?
Very good, very good question. I believe so. I believe when the initial idea came about creating this economic space for the young people of this country, it came with a lot of derision, a lot of laughter as to what is it that the Prime Minister is thinking. But I think now we could begin to see the fruits of that. You would see the youth unemployment figure is significantly lower than it was when we got into government. But we're not ending the process there. What we want to eventually be able to do is to connect the youth economy. So you come through the youth economy, you get that initial grant, that initial loan, and as you expand, we now hope you gravitate into the St. Lucia Development Bank. And as you gravitate, you then go, or as you grow, you then go into the pure commercial banking. It's a pipeline is what we were trying to create for investment. And I guess everything that you're reading now from the IMF speaks to that vision, that thought that the Prime Minister had.
With regards to the IMF country report,
Yes.
they makes one of the recommendations
Correct.
is the improvement of the transparency of our CIP. What is the government planning to do in that regard?
I think there is a consultant that is currently working with the OECS region insofar as putting together a path forward insofar as what more can we do to be even more transparent. I think as we stand at the moment, St. Lucia is very transparent in this process of the CIP. There was a regional meeting which the minister, the AG attended, and I know they're coming up with certain guidelines insofar as how to make it even more transparent going forward.
They also called for comprehensive tax policy reform and tax administration. The proposed draft tax administration bill, when is it coming to Congress? And what changes being made in that all the concerns that will address it?
Because when it was initially addressed, this new tax administration policy, the cabinet was not briefed on that particular matter. We had initial discussion with Inland Revenue. It is something I know we're looking at. But as you would appreciate, there's only so much you could do at once because you're dealing with something very sensitive. If you just sporadically decide to start tinkering with taxes without having a clear explanation from the people of St. Lucia, I think it will cause more concern and more injury to the business community. So yes, we recognize that we could do better as a country in terms of our tax administration. A lot of that actually requires an investment in technology. The last time we looked at that cost, it would cost us about $20 million to put in the necessary tax infrastructure, IT infrastructure to be able to harness that. Jamaica went through that similar process and they came out of it very strong. We are looking into it, and I think it is something we will do as soon as the opportunity arises.
Is that zero being scrapped then, or relook?
With regards to whether it's been scrapped or not, I will have to take advice from the Attorney General's chamber, but I don't believe there was any discussion about scrapping it. It's just a matter of apprising cabinet as to where it is, what the intent was, and to see if we could have common ground on it. But with regards to scrapping, we're in the business of improving what we find, not necessarily scrapping it just for scrapping's sake. Yes? So I guess you could read, sorry. No, I was going to say, so I would very encourage you to read the article on the IMF. It is something that we should all be proud of. I mean, since 1992, and I keep making that point, we have grown consistently above 3%. This is more than just a statistical triumph. We should all be proud as St. Lucians, and not just the politicians, the business community, the workers in St. Lucia also play a part in arriving at that particular destination. So we continue to encourage them to work with the government to deliver for the people of St. Lucia.
What's the update on the rural situation, the road? What's the update? Did Rego come to fix the road Saturday?
We started, the very interesting thing about this thing, and again, we were in church yesterday, preaching Lent and reconciliation. There was a church service held by the Archbishop for the government and the opposition. In a matter of hours of leaving the church, I heard last night a particular member was suggesting that the Prime Minister should be taken to the square and flogged. It's only a few hours ago we sat in church, we had Holy Communion, we exchanged pleasantries, and very shortly after that, that was the comment. So it troubles me, to be quite honest with you, it troubles me that we can't seem to get to a level of maturity as party, as political party, as government, as opposition. There are some things we should take very seriously, and we should not play with the lives of the people of St. Lucia.
So what's the update on the road?
So with regards to the Roseau, whilst we were there, the matter, first of all, democracy is alive and well in Roseau. When we came, the issues were addressed. Very interestingly, just a week ago, the engineers were on that very same road measuring it to commence work. So it was very interesting that some people were encouraged to take that action. But when we got on the scene, we explained the situation. In a matter of hours, Reno came on the scene and the work has commenced. So hopefully today, if the rain gives us an opportunity, more work will commence. But we are going to deliver to the people of Roseau as expected.
Was it the opposition?
Well, you see, I have to be careful. I can only repeat to you what I read, just like what you read, that the streets are talking and certain people were given certain instructions. It doesn't matter to me if they were given instructions. That is a matter for law enforcement officers to look into and realize what is the story behind that. But as far as I'm concerned, my responsibility is to the people of Roseau, and I did what it was in the best interest of the people of Roseau, irrespective of the politics. Jerry.
No, you have something.
Yes, yeah. Okay. So yes. So thank you very much for your time this morning, and I look forward to seeing you again on Monday. But please read that article. It's good reading. Yes? Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
It's Monday morning.
Yes.
Okay, so today I just want to share with you what is happening in my constituency. Yesterday, Sunday, we had the official sword turning ceremony for the construction of a multi-purpose court, change room, washroom, and a clubhouse for the community of Zeno. And I can tell you that the community of Zeno, we've had quite a few sport persons, especially in the area of cricket, from that community. And we felt it was so important to address the needs of that community. When we engaged the young people, they requested, if you know Zeno, it has very limited land space. So there was just one area where the young persons are using as a recreational area. And they requested that we transform it into a multipurpose court. So we went further. I've gone further. Instead of just the multipurpose court, we recognize that they do not have a community hall. And consequently, we had a multipurpose court. And we'll have, because of the limited space, we have to have a first level, a ground floor and a first level. The first level is going to be the clubhouse, which the community will also have the meetings in, and change room and washroom downstairs. The funding for that, this is going to cost us almost just over $500,000. Is going to be funded by CDP, almost 50% by CDP program, and the other 50% by the National Lottery. So I want to take this moment to thank the government and people of Taiwan for the CDP program. And I want to thank the National Lottery for responding to the needs of our young people in that particular area. So again, the government of St. Lucia put in our young people, focusing on sports and community development as well. The clubhouse, we think, is going to be a space where the entire community can bring the entire community there in terms of community development. And the multipurpose courts is to focus on not only the youth, but on our elderly as we talk about preventive health and movement and everything else. So we are looking forward to that particular infrastructure. In the next 2 weeks, we are going to have something similar in the community of Foshejac. For Foshejac, we have, there exists a court, but that court don't have what we call change room and toilet facilities and so on. And again, using the funds from the community development program, we are going to have the construction of change room and washrooms. Again, we are going to have in the next 2 weeks sword breaking ceremony so that that particular project could start. So as a Palo rep for Sucre for Shashak, our focus this first half of the year is on our young people.
Speaking about the young people, St. Lucia is supposed to be, well, many people from St. Lucia are supposed to descend on Sucre for island jumps. How are you preparing, or how is the constituency preparing for this?
You know, it's a good question. Yes, the entire island will be in Sucre. I think it's 2 days this week, as well as Sunday the 23rd. We have prepared in the past. How are we preparing? You're going to get a Sucre welcome. The best in terms of quality, entertainment. But I also want to take this moment to thank the Minister of Youth Development and Sports for selecting Sucre. It has significant implications for us, not only for our young people and for their participation and everything else, but especially for the economic impact, both for our Airbnbs and our vendors. So all along, Sucre is extremely grateful for this opportunity to host St. Lucia. And we look forward to doing so time and time again.
Okay, Minister, recently, about 3 weeks ago, the Prime Minister did announce about a special committee to look at the chamber and concerns with trade. Why are we?
Not trade. The tariffs.
The tariff, right?
So whole day tomorrow, I think we got an invitation. Well, yes, I think the press is invited tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, Ministry of Commerce, boardroom.
What's happening?
The committee, you just asked a question. I'm telling you, it's covered tomorrow, 9 o'clock. The ministers are meeting, and then we have a working session with the technical team tomorrow, God willing.
Should be the first meeting that all the
We haven't. We've had some work done, but officially, all the ministers that are on that subcommittee are going to meet tomorrow from 9 o'clock, God willing. We are not meeting in the chamber. Prime Minister met with the chamber on a different matter. The ministers, the subcommittee, we are going to meet tomorrow and we are going to tell you what you're going to do. So I do not want to preempt my press conference tomorrow morning, Tuesday.
Minister, we speak of the developments in Sucre.
Yes.
One area is the waterfront, the boating, and the vessel issue. How is that working out? We've seen more cruise ships coming to Sucre. How are the Sucre fishers on the boat people? How are they able
to manage? Yes, you are correct. For this season, we have some 60 visits by mega yachts in our bay. Sometimes we've seen the clippings. We've had up to 4 yachts in the bay on a particular day. This has implications for our traffic management and everything else. We have some challenges, and some of our challenges is for our young people, some of our boat boys, and we are having meetings not only with the hoteliers, but also because what we're having as well is an influx of persons on our beaches, especially with Jalousie Beach and Anchasney Beach, because you have to look at the increase in visitors, not only in the Sucre Harbor, but also coming down from Castries and how it impacts the beaches that we have. That's one challenge we're trying to deal with now. But also you have a challenge with our boat boys and how they manage, how they interact with the visitors. That's another challenge that we're trying to manage between the Sucre Regional Development Foundation, the SMMA. I'm trying to meet with the Commissioner of Police and the Marine Police so that we can sit together and put down some rigid protocols.
Would there be any need for, say, some kind of certification, like, it's a risky business, not risky, but it could be delicate, handling a boat.
Well, the boat boys, you may recall that about just maybe over 18 months ago, we trained some 21 boat boys to receive the certification in being boat captains. So that was all in preparation for all of what is happening there now. But, one of the things that we have to do is to do more training in soft skills. Especially we have visitors come in. They have the technical skills to manage the boat, but they need to know the technical skills and how we interact with our visitors, how we respect the laws that are placed on the water by SLASPA, that type of thing. How they understand the implications of what they're doing and how it impacts the whole industry. That's the type of work that we have to sit down and have that conversation continually with them.
Just to digress for a bit, Minister. A few months ago last year, the government of St. Lucia compensated some fishers
Yes.
who lost their vessels during
Yes, about 30.
hurricane.
And we have an additional almost 30 other persons that we are waiting compensation for. Because what we did when we did the first compensation, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Department of Fisheries, focused only on fishers that were registered with that department. But based on our investigation on the ground, you have maybe equal amount of persons that lost their boats and engines or their boats got damaged that were not fishers. They were more involved, some of them, with the tourism sector. So that's the work we are doing now so that we can come to them. The Prime Minister has given his word that he's going to assist with some type of compensation for them. So that is coming pretty soon.
Okay, but in light of this funding, those who got funding to it, can you update us, or are you aware of how the recovery is going because of this funding?
Well, I do not want to speak without doing a proper survey to say, well, the boat was damaged here. I know some of them, even before they got the funds from the Prime Minister, had gone out and take loans to repair their boats in some cases and purchase engines. But I have not done a survey after the PM gave them the funds to ensure that the entire 30 has completed all their renovations or have replaced their vessels. So this is an exercise that I'm hoping that with the help of the Department of Fisheries and the fisheries officer on the ground, that exercise will take place. What's that? If I can remember, it was like $500,000 around in that area. Yeah. Yeah? Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, good afternoon. I'm sure you must have heard two announcements. One, an article on the New York Times saying that St. Lucia has been given 60 days to answer some questions. And secondly, the issue relating to Cuban doctors. On the latter, I can tell you that the government of St. Lucia was, through a diplomatic note, we were notified there had been some questions that the US government wanted us to answer regarding Cuban doctors or the Cuban medical personnel. I want to tell you that letter did not only come to St. Lucia. That inquiry wasn't only for St. Lucia. It was an inquiry for everywhere there are Cuban doctors. We answered the questions, and the answers were simple. The Cuban doctors who work in St. Lucia, they work as professionals. They get paid by the government of St. Lucia, and they have no special or different treatment to our local doctors. And in terms of their use, they play a very important role in our medical system. Our medical system would basically collapse if the Cuban doctors were not there. And you must understand that the Cuban doctors were introduced to St. Lucia in 1979, when the St. Lucia got its independence. Not 1979. They got the St. Lucia when 1979, yeah, when the Labour Party won elections to 1979. That's when they came to St. Lucia. So they've been in St. Lucia for a long time. There are some seasoned practitioners in St. Lucia who train in Cuba, and they are a great asset to our system. And it would be very sad if we lost that resource. In terms of what's the government's reaction, the government has returned the missive to the US in terms of a diplomatic note, where we said to them that we obey international law as far as that is concerned, and we have nothing to hide as far as the Cuban doctors are concerned. The Minister of External Affairs is going to be here after. He'll give you full details on what that diplomatic note said. It's a very concerning to be very concerned about it. Where I said our system would virtually collapse if the Cuban doctors were not involved. There also are Cuban nurses. Secondly, regarding the article that St. Lucia was on a yellow list, we've got no official notification as yet. We've made inquiries for our Washington office, and then they also have said to us that they have nothing official, so only what we have to go by is an article on a newspaper. And that is a very serious issue. It's nothing to gloat about or to laugh at or to believe that there's any political mileage to be gained by it. It's an article where all solutions should get together, because the US is not dealing with a party. The US is dealing with the government of St. Lucia. And the US policies are changing. Look at the issues of Canada, issues of Mexico, issues of Russia and China and Ukraine. So they're not dealing with the St. Lucia Labour Party. They're dealing with a country. So we must tread with caution in that regard. You must tread with caution. And this is why we have been deliberate in our statements. We are saying that we want dialogue. We want to continue dialogue with the US, and dialogue will continue, but we reserve the right to establish friendships with countries that we want to establish friendship with. That's our position. So we're not going to be reckless and make statements that we will not be able to substantiate. Well, I can tell you, we are very concerned about the Cuban issue. And secondly, we have not got any official notification on the issue regarding St. Lucia on the yellow list. The Minister of Foreign Affairs will give you some more information when he comes.
Do you on the on St. Lucia with the three other countries that were mentioned on that report list, did your coordinator have a similar statement?
No, well,
Responses from each government seem to be the wording of your statement, obviously.
Well, it's the most common sense response. In fact, we are meeting tomorrow in St. Martin. Tomorrow, the OECS has and we'll probably get into a deep caucus on that issue. But that was the most responsible response to make.
It was coordinated.
Prime ministers speak to each other. I don't know whether, I can't say it was coordinated because each of us are sovereign states, but we do speak to each other.
Okay, so in minutes to should you see that solution should not worry about being on the resistance, you did not get from the US.
Well, St. Lucia should be concerned because, as you know, the US is our neighbor, is our ally. But what I'm saying that we must caution against reckless statements, and that's what we must caution against because in our political exuberance, we make reckless statements, and then we must not make any reckless statements because, as you write, it's an issue of concern. We are concerned. Yes, we are.
But Prime Minister, given with this situation, is it something do we ever see the US making taking steps, making moves based on just statements of one person in the country? We don't see that in
Yes.
for investigation before anything is done. So
Yes, the US, you must know, I don't want to cast aspersions on anyone or anybody, but the US listens, and we've made the point. In fact, we've made the point before that reckless statements, when they are made, they go worldwide. And sometimes, as I said, in our quest for political power, we see things that can be used to haunt us, particularly when you are in positions of power. We have to be very careful with what we say. And I'm not going to be casting any aspersions today on anyone. What is said, everybody can hear. So I'm not going to cast any aspersions on anyone today. But all I can tell you is that I am extremely happy with where we are in St. Lucia as far as our economy is concerned, as far as crime is concerned. I heard from the Commissioner of Police, although I hate to use that as a measure, compared last year, and I want to be clear, I don't use that as a measure. But in terms of murders have gone down by 45% compared to the same time last year. 45% decrease in homicides. That's according to the police. I want to reiterate, I'm not applauding that. No, I'm saying it's a fact that murders have reduced by 45%. I'm not using that as a measure for crime, but that is a fact. And what has caused that? There's been a concerted effort by the police to increase on the patrols, increase on their intelligence. On Friday, we gave the police 3 new vehicles. On Friday, we had 62 more special police constables. These are going to be on the road from today. We're going to be starting training for 80 new police recruits. That's going to happen starting anytime now. So we see that our policy of giving the police the resources that they need based on the government's fiscal position is beginning to bear fruit. And we continue doing that, but no one murder is too much. There's some murders that are happening. One murder is too much. We think that we'd be happy if there were no murders, if there were no homicides. But we see small signs of progress. And I want to tell the police, the majority of them, to continue doing the work, to continue, and the public to work with the police to see how we can bring the situation under complete control.
the 45% is on the work.
No, I'm yet to hear.
There were accusations by the opposition of an alleged lack of handshake at a orchard service yesterday. Are there any truths to that?
The last time I heard about handshakes are voluntary.
All right. So, a follow-up question then. In the past, I've heard it said that political parties are political opponents rather than enemies. Is that still the case? It's a crucial.
I have no enemies. My enemies are poverty, hatred, envy, greed. These are my enemies.
Okay.
Prime Minister, with regard to the Cuban, the policy related to the Cuban medical missions, we've had 3 of the prime ministers of the region who have made public announcements on an ultimatum that is being given.
The who?
3 regional leaders, the announcement stating basically they're prepared to lose their visa in lieu of protecting our healthcare system. Well, for say, Lucia, for you, what is your statement on that?
My position is that if we lose the Cuban medical care, medical attention, medical support, our system is going to be in dire straits. And I hope it doesn't happen. And my visa is not relevant in the circumstances. What we have to do is we have to work to ensure by dialogue, by discussion, that doesn't happen. In terms of personal visas, that's irrelevant. What's important is we have to make sure that we do the work, the dialogue, that we do the lobbying, that we do the footwork, that we explain, if we can, that the Cuban doctors and the Cuban medical personnel are important to us. In terms of personal, I make no comment.
I think the regional CARICOM, is it CARICOM? I can't remember the abbreviation, but they would have had a meeting with the US concerning this very issue, the Cuban.
No, the that's why I did the Minister of Foreign Affairs. He was at the meeting, yes.
So who's in since the police state that you're not in charge of giving out the passports, who's in charge of giving out the passports?
Oh, the that question is very strange. The passports, the writing of the passports are done by the immigration department. They don't give out passports; they write them. You see, there's been a lot of misconception, which no matter how we try to clear it, it comes again and again and again. The CIP gives citizenships, right? When you get a citizenship certificate, you have to go to the NIC for NIC number. Then, like a local, like anybody else, then you go to the passport office where they write the passport for you. So, giving out passports, we don't give passports, we give citizenships, and the expression of the citizenship is the physical passport. So it goes like any solution, like anybody else. That's what it is.
In the IMF report, country report, the recommendations coming from the IMF is for us to improve transparency within our.
And they also said we had 3% growth.
So Gerardo.
I just wanted to remind you, yeah.
But since we're on the CIP matter, they recommended that we improve transparency, which.
But we don't always listen to the CIP to the IMF. You know, the IMF said if you look at the reports that they should never have reduced VAT.
But can you speak to the improvement in transparency? What are you prepared to do to address the IMF's
Well,
concerns generally of other countries like the UK, the EU, the US?
Well, we don't report to the IMF as far as the CIP is concerned. We report to due diligence bodies. We've taken, the Lucia has taken every step that we've been advised to take as far as due diligence is concerned. Every step. There is a deeper philosophical issue regarding the CIP, which I will not go into now. Very deep. And it's that deep philosophical issue. What we do is that we scratch the surface, but at some point, I will be able to explain what I think is the issue as it regards CIP. Right now, I will not. And it's nothing about due diligence. It's in my humble opinion. You heard the US have a CIP program. President Trump just announced it. A golden passport, a golden card. So it's a bigger issue. What I can tell you is that we are making our best efforts to ensure that we follow all the rules, to ensure when somebody gets a citizenship from St. Lucia, they are someone who has gone through all the steps to ensure their suitability for a passport.
Prime Minister, is this a surprise for you to give this the news stories, the media reports, which was run by New York Times and Reuters as well, of this draft? This is a draft which could possibly become a final document. Are you surprised at St. Lucia and also St. Lucia even being on that list? not to the other countries that we see that.
I don't know if there's anything to be surprised of. I know there's anything to be surprised of. I mean, nobody would have expected the US to want to say Canada would be a 51st state. That's a surprise. So I really can't. I don't want to predetermine the thoughts of the US government. I can't. I don't read minds. I don't read hearts. So to tell me, I will know what the US. I don't know what the US is thinking. All I can tell you is that the US, the Saint Lucia, will use its best endeavors to avoid any action that will harm the citizens of the country. See, these actions, we tend to believe that they will harm political figures. They don't. They harm, in fact, some of the major political figures in Indonesia have 2 passports. But what are you laughing at? Not me, I have 1. So some of the so you see some of the so these things are not they won't affect us. They won't affect the people in the political hierarchy of even of both parties. They affect people, the regular people who want to use their credit cards, who want to use their debit cards. These are the people they affect, and we must always keep them in mind when we seek our own political fortunes. And that's my position. We must always keep that in mind. And that has been a position that's been consistent with me from opposition. I have said once it affects people, I'm going to support it. And you can go into the records. People always quote me and say, they always say, like on her show today, what I heard when some guy said, I had said, you understand? I laughed because he can never put on the record I said so, never. Because I'm very careful with my words. I'm in this business for a long time. I understand how it thinks. I know all the players. I know their history. All the players, I can give you reasons why most of the players behave how they behave now. And so I'm very careful in what I say. What I want to tell you is when these things are said, it's the people who get affected, not the political actors. The people. But the political actors use the people for their own personal situation to get into political power. My concern is how this visa issue will affect the people of St. Lucia. That's my concern. And this is why I'll use my best endeavors to see if we can avoid it.
Okay, so are you okay? You're prepared to lose your visa though in terms of the visa.
I'll repeat myself again. It's not a personal situation. It's not personal. You understand? The US decides to give whoever they want visas. Before people used to go, they used to have to get a letter to get a visa. The US gives whoever they want visas. They've always taken that position. So my situation.
So you don't believe that even with a draft document that any actions that this stems from any actions of your administration?
No, I don't think so. I see no reason why I should believe that. All I can tell you is that the US foreign policy has changed with the change in the administration.
I just want to hear you state by yourself the reason as to why Senator might have been put on the list.
I have no idea. Unless I get official notification, I'll not make a pronouncement. I can tell you about the Cubans. The Cubans was because of alleged human trafficking that was written. I can tell you that. That one. And I will not make any pronouncement. I can't. You see, my words mean something, and I don't use them recklessly. Other people can, but my words mean something.
Yesterday at cricket, you said that you would give an additional $500,000 to sporting equipment. What exactly would that fund? In particular, what equipment and to who?
Well, the Ministry of Sports will deal with the logistics of distribution. we pledged 1 million, but yesterday I was so elated by what I saw yesterday. The quality of cricket, and by the way, we started a professional cricket league. And I don't know if the Minister of Sports told you, CONCACAF was here on the weekend, and they were full of praise for St. Lucia. You see, let me tell you what gets me going, what keeps me going. What keeps me going is when I see the accolades that St. Lucia gets as a country. When I see a country now that can speak about single-digit unemployment, when I see a country that could pay its civil servants a bonus, a salary increase, and a back pay, and another salary increase in April. When I see that, and when I see institutions like the IMF write about what's happening in St. Lucia, when I hear the showers that come to St. Lucia from the CONCACAF organizers, that gives me hope. That gives me hope. You understand? Even among the young reporters, I get hope from them because some of them don't follow their seniors. I get hope from the young boy. You see, I'm very hopeful about St. Lucia. I'm very buoyed about St. Lucia. There were 1,400 young people who got grants from the youth economy. That excites me. When I see that we have at least in terms of hotel investments, when I say hotel investments of at least $1 billion, I get excited about St. Lucia. You see, I'm not seeing St. Lucia in a glass that's half empty. I'm seeing St. Lucia in a glass that's half full. I'm very excited about St. Lucia. So that's why you see I'm focused. I'm focused on the work that the government is doing. I'm focused on the work that the people are doing. We could not have had that level of economic development growth if the private sector didn't have confidence in the government of St. Lucia. The private sector had to have confidence to invest. And I'm asking them to invest some more. We had a meeting with the private sector last week, Thursday. We had very good discussions. We're looking at the tax structure. We're looking at the issues as relating to clearing of goods and customs and at SLASPA. That's what we're talking about. I'm excited about St. Lucia. I'm very excited. I feel very optimistic about St. Lucia because I heard a majority of St. Lucians. I don't have people in groups, in 10 and 20, making noise. I listen to the majority of people in St. Lucia. I speak to them. I walk the streets. I hear them. I hear about the pensioners looking forward now to get an increase in the minimum in the minimum pensions. They're excited about it. That's what I see in St. Lucia. I don't see a St. Lucia where I see a St. Lucia that is progressing. But I have, as I've made the point before, my greatest concern would be a climate event. That's my greatest concern, a climate event that would derail the country. But I'm very excited about St. Lucia, very excited. And no one can take that off from me. Yes.
Before it was recommended again, that it was recommended before the strengthening of what tax
Streamlining, yeah.
and also tax reform policies. Where are we with this the bill, the tax administration, the bill?
Yeah.
Is it still, has it been
the tapper? The tapper that was started under the last government. Unfortunately, the tapper got derailed. What will happen now is we are looking to put together a complete revamp of our tax system, a complete revamp. So the new tax legislation will come into play, but right now, as we speak, the tapper, as we knew it, is on hold.
Is it because of, I guess, with consultations with the private sector and other agencies, because of their concerns that this has been placed on hold?
No. It's because of the dynamic nature of the economic situation. And there's something. Who would think of a trade war between Canada and the US? No one think about. When I hear people making pronouncements, and I mean, it's just, it's laughable. Who would think about that? Who would think that the US would have a golden card, a golden green card system? Who would think of issues of tariffs between Canada and the US? Who would think about a situation as it regards Russia and the US? So these situations are dynamic. I'll tell you something. In looking at our tax structure, we have to look at the effect of tariffs. Let us suppose that a tariff policy works. Goods coming out of the US will be more expensive. In fact, our task force is working on that. What will happen is that we're going to get affected here. So our tax structure must look at that. These are things that we could not think would happen. It's very dynamic. We would never that happen. So it's a fluid situation that we are looking at. But all I can tell you is we will always look at the best interest of the people of St. Lucia.
You mentioned earlier about the single day unemployment. Could you just elaborate more on that? And what statistics are you going off of? Because like walking in the streets, you just see a lot of unemployed.
The statistics that we always went on from the Central Statistical Office. And this one, miss. Again, we pretend as if these things are new. Every 3 months, the Central Statistical Office does a review of the employment in the country. Every 3 months, and they come with the results. I can question them because all I can do is look at the results from the Central Statistics Department. So what I can tell you is I'm going on the results as pronounced by the Central Statistics Department.
Yeah, very quick, Mr. Prime Minister. From the Cuban doctor, I will be concerned with this issue. But in terms of its relation to I call it human trafficking, like the immigration policies for the Cuban doctors, work permits, all of these things will be intact. This should be in place. Is there now cause for us for St. Lucia to look into this human trafficking issue, because it's something that affects the global, it affects everybody. Is it now time for St. Lucia to strengthen that?
St. Lucia has always been working with the US on human trafficking. But as far as Cuban doctors are concerned, we have no evidence that there is any form of human trafficking. No evidence. But you continue to work in the US as far as human trafficking is concerned.
Will you have to give out a report or statement?
They asked for some questions. No, as I said, we continue to work with them on human trafficking. We continue to work with them. But as far as the questions that they've been asked on the doctors, we've been answering them. And to our best of our knowledge, there is absolutely no human trafficking as far as that's concerned.
So what is the update on the custody suites? So we know that this.
Oh, it's going to be open. It's going to be open hopefully before the budget in April.
Together with we don't have the summer division of the.
That's end of March. Yes.
What do you think about the protest by the residents of Rosso on the road? Do you think that it will now start with the business?
Oh, I'm glad you told me so. I forgot. I'm glad you told me so. You see, I'll tell you something. You see these things in front of there? These things are very powerful. These images reach as far as China, even Ukraine, these images. Now, I believe, and that's my belief, that this is a means of causing our country to look in a bad light for foreign consumption. Because when somebody sees tires being burnt in the road and barricades in the road, they will not understand that that doesn't affect the majority of people in St. Lucia. That doesn't say that right now, in the same constituency, there is work going on a major highway as we speak. There are millions of dollars worth of work going on in the same area as we speak. So these things are all part of the plan to send a bad image out for St. Lucia. All part of a plan to pretend that things are worse in St. Lucia than they are. Huh? By the opposition. I started out in your favor. By the opposition. The opposition has not seen the path to victory. And I've seen my path to victory. My path to victory is I'm going to win all the 17 seats. So and then that path to victory that lack of a path has caused a level of desperation never seen before in St. Lucian politics. I was in opposition. I've been there. Opposition is not new to me. I have been there. I started in opposition. I've been there. I understand that. I have never seen that level of desperation in an opposition like I've seen now.
So you see the actions by the residents who was political influence?
I am saying that the actions by the Roseau residents had political influence. And if you notice the person who had the action at Denry North, you will see who he is and you'll see what his political allegiance and what he said. That's a fact.
So you're saying these things are coordinated by the opposition. And what message would you like to send?
I'm not using the word coordinated. All I'm saying, I chose my words carefully. All I'm saying is that message is to go out to the outside world so that St. Lucia can be seen in a bad name. Just like crime, just like CIP, just like everything else. It's for the outside world to put St. Lucia in a bad light. That's all it is. It's fodder for the outside press. That's all it is. It's not for local consumption. It's for the outside world so that we can get hurt where it matters. In our tourism industry, in our investment industry. That's the message. It's the whole thing of burning the house to rule over the ashes. Burning the house to kill a rat. That is my position. Because there can be, I will not get myself in a debate with the opposition. I'm focused. I will not get myself involved in any debate with opposition figures. You never get it from me, never. At least not now. What I'm saying to you is that look at some of the pronouncements that come from the opposition platform. And are they real? Are these things really happening in the country? It's all in an effort to destroy St. Lucia. And I'm not saying people's right of expression is paramount. We need to hear. Let me give an example. The Sovereign Wealth Fund. Let me give an example. There are 176 countries in the world with a Sovereign Wealth Fund. Here's what we're saying. We are saying, let us have a savings so we can see in the first instance about climate adaptation. Think about if we'd saved $3 million a year from 1979, how much money we'd have now? All we are saying is we ask people all the time to give us. What are we doing for ourselves? We're saying for ourselves, we're going to have a sovereign wealth fund where we'll put some money aside. I'm going to make this in my policy statement. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to put aside. We're going to put it in a secured environment. That we can use for one, climate adaptation. There is a whole climate adaptation policy that the whole country knows about. We're saying that. You want to tell me, as an opposition, can oppose that? I mean, let's just think about it. I mean, that's a deliberate attempt to stall the country. A deliberate attempt to lack confidence in the country. When you attack the medical services of a small country, when you know very well that medical care is extremely important and expensive, when you say you have no confidence in local doctors and nurses, who are you attacking? Me? I'm only one person. When I get sick, I alone will suffer like other people if I have to suffer. But when you attack a whole system, when you deliberately cause people not to have any confidence in the medical system. When you have nurses and doctors who are working extra hard to put a system together, what is that? What is that? It doesn't affect me. I have made it abundantly clear to the public. My job is a temporary job. My father never died and left St. Lucia for me. I have no divine right to be Prime Minister of St. Lucia. I am Prime Minister of St. Lucia based on the confidence of the people of Cashews East and my colleagues, the elected colleagues. I have no divine right. This job is a temporary job. When the people of St. Lucia have decided that my tenure is over, I will bow out gracefully. So I'm not in this politics because I have any I think I have any divine right or I have any believe that I must do it. That's why I'm remaining focused on the goal of improving the quality of life of the people of St. Lucia. That's all I'm focused on, and I will continue to do that until the people decide that they don't want me any longer.
Do you think that local political machinations and announcements, based on what you're saying, may have prompted what we're seeing now coming from the US in terms of the visa restriction and draft? Do you think that may have led?
I'm not going to be specific because I don't know. I'm not a guy there. What I know is that announcements like that do not augur well for the country. And you may not have reported it, but I've made these statements before about the danger when you talk about our correspondent banking. You heard me make these statements a long time. I've been consistent in my statements, very consistent in my statements. You may choose not to report it, but I'm consistent in what I say. You remember when you and I had a discussion about the CIP? I said to you, wait for the courts. I've been consistent.
However, Prime Minister, yes, well, that is correspondence and whatnot. What are you implying that the US takes decisions based on this statements made here? Do you think that's what with the own investigations and
I am saying that we cannot predict the US. I've given you examples where you can predict the US now. You can't predict the US now. In your wildest imagination, you think the US, do you think somebody in the US will say you change the name of the Gulf of Mexico? Let's think about it. That never came to anybody's mind that Canada would be in a trade war with the US. Never came to anybody's mind. So who am I to predict what the US will do? Or who am I to interpret the US's actions? What I can tell you, I'm going to try my best to avoid problems for the people of St. Lucia.
Are you saying that the actions of the local people are being ignored since you say this deal was happening?
No, there's work happening now. It's okay. Because let me get a joke about that. On Monday, the engineers would mention the road. On Monday, the engineers, and on Tuesday, I had on my desk a proposal for funding to fix that road on Tuesday. Because engineers were there all weekend and mentioned the road. So people saw that. That's clear. Okay. Thank you very much.
Just one more question.
Yes,
WRMA, the Water Resource Management Authority, I think they've spoken in cabinet, so I'm sure it's legislation because what they're claiming is that many water trucks, I guess, from construction companies are just taking water, I guess, from the rivers and whatnot, affecting their own supply. Has that come to the cabinet?
No, I have not seen it, but I'm sure the minister will bring it up. Thank you very much. Thanks. You have you for the whole day today.
For your kind introduction, I want to say, wow, good afternoon to everyone. Good. I just want to report briefly on my last trip overseas to Washington. I attended the 56th special session of the General Assembly of the OAS. And for the very first time in the almost 8 decades of the existence of the OAS, we elected a Secretary General from our region, the Honorable Albert Ramdeen from Suriname, an integral member of CARICOM. And so it was indeed a very special occasion for us. Every CARICOM country took the floor to actually commend Mr. Ramdeen on the victory. One, of course, he was elected by unanimous acclamation. There were two other candidates, but in the final analysis, he emerged as the sole candidate because the foreign minister from Paraguay took a strategic retreat to allow him to advance to the position where he was elected with unanimous acclamation. Therefore, it was indeed a great day for us. Whilst in Washington, D.C., I had the unsurpassed glory of addressing St. Lucians, the diaspora. We had a very good engagement, and many questions were asked, and many responses that were pertinent to the understanding were actually provided. I think we concluded the meeting on a very positive note that we should see some greater participation from the diaspora in the business of national development. Also, the Sunday prior to the OAS meeting, I attended a church service. Obviously, it was done to celebrate 46 years of independence. And I was clothed with the important trust again of addressing St. Lucians. They attended a very good service. So in essence, we had some very good engagements. In addition to engaging with St. Lucians overseas, I held some bilateral meetings with PAHO whilst up in Washington. I went on Capitol Hill, and there were a number of Congress persons who I interacted with, including the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, to get a sense as to how things are proceeding in the new dispensation. Obviously, after a change of administration, you would have different priorities being established, and we wanted to get a sense as to how we should prepare to engage in the new dispensation. There are, some changes being made. They're coming on fast and furious, and it does not only affect, that particular posture does not only affect the United States of America, but certainly have implications for us. And it is not uncommon to find situations where administration change, and there's a change of administration, and then there is a change of foreign policy position. We have heard the Creole saying, cheval change met, y change pas. And undoubtedly, we have been responding quite a bit to various developments in the global environment. And I must say, it is a rapidly changing global environment. And that environment is pregnant with the seeds of our country's continued marginalization. Whilst up there as well, where we as foreign ministers met, because at the CARICOM level, we coordinate trade and foreign policy, and we did have some discussions amongst ourselves to ensure that we are strengthening our internal machinery in an effort to respond appropriately to the changes that are taking place. So I must say, all in all, it was a week well spent. We addressed a number of issues. The discussions with the various individuals were quite important, interesting, and rewarding. So I would say it was a successful period. I returned on island yesterday, and here I am speaking to you this afternoon. I'm favorably disposed to any questions you may ask.
This will take coordinated foreign policy among the
Yes.
countries of the region. With regards to the US cultivating, regarding the Cuban foundation, what are we prepared to do? What are we doing? What's the course of action?
Right. So among the things that we must understand, as individual states, we have international obligations. The United States of America did write to various islands in the CARICOM region with relations with Cuba as far as medical personnel is concerned. We do not have medical personnel in our country in any unrecognized fashion. The Cuban medical professionals, they are an integral part of our healthcare system, responding to the many challenges that we have. During COVID in particular, we actually strengthened that presence to help us navigate such a difficult period. And we want to thank the government and people of Cuba for providing us with that support. Also, training many of the medical doctors we have who are St. Lucians in our society. We thank them at great personal sacrifice for training our people so that we can maintain a healthcare system that could respond to the challenges that we face today. The United States was concerned that there was forced labor, etc., and that we probably was asking about our international commitments. We responded to the US, indicating clearly that we are not in violation of any international obligations. And as you would know, the business of diplomacy is not conducted, in public and engaging willy-nilly over things. But we dialogue all the time, and I think I told you that the last time. We are constantly engaging on a multiplicity of issues, and issues come up every single day. We dealt with the medical issue, we got a diplomatic note, and we responded to the diplomatic note, indicating what the situation is in St. Lucia. The US was more or less seeking clarification as to what type of arrangements we had and if those arrangements were offending against recognized international standards. But we are going to continue to subject the way we do things to new levels of critical examination to ensure that we are not guilty of any violation.
What is their response to this? With us saying that we are not in violation of any international law policy, what is their response now to us?
Well, they have not responded. They ask us, so we receive a diplomatic note and we have responded.
Right. The change in regard to US aid to countries, particularly St. Lucia, how has it affected us in St. Lucia?
Well, if there is a reduction in support to, for example, the World Health Organization that normally provides support to PAHO, which is in our region, it would impact negatively on the services that we provide. And it would not impact every island in the same way because you have different health programs in different countries. If there is a curtailment of support for St. Lucia at the bilateral level, there will be dislocation. And it is very important that we understand that in this new environment that we are in, the post-Cold War environment, we need to take responsibility for raising our revenues to finance our expenditure. So we want X, we must understand it is our responsibility to do so. And therefore, we as a people must understand that and try to ensure that there is no over-reliance on any particular country or organization, or else we will be in the dark when there is a shift in that type of support.
The Prime Minister said that there was no formal word given to St. Lucia as to why you were on the yellow list. But have you all reached out to the US and in question as to why you were there?
Okay, let me, of course, indicate very clearly and categorically, that is, that we have received absolutely no correspondence from the United States of America indicating anything about the yellow list. As a matter of fact, we saw it like most people in the New York Times, if I recall clearly, and that was Friday. I saw it on Friday when I was about to prepare to leave Washington. So at no time during our discussions that yellow list emerged. Given the fact that we communicate with the United States via diplomatic channels, that particular channel has not indicated to us that this is the reality and this is the situation. And no doubt in the coming period, we would know whether that list was just published in error or whether there is some degree of validity to it. But we communicate in specific ways, and that official channel of information has not been activated to communicate anything.
Are you expecting?
Well, I mean, I don't enter the realm of speculation in such regard. I mean, if we receive a diplomatic note stating very clearly what those concerns are, rest assured, we shall respond. Because that is the respect we must have for countries, big and small. If a country has certain concerns, because we are in a global, family, and therefore, if at all any posture is causing injury to another, and that other party, solicits some level of clarification, I think it is always courteous to do so and respectful to do so.
But Lucia is seeking clarification from the US.
Yeah, obviously, we would, in our own way, try to determine the veracity of that particular place. But so far, we have gotten absolutely no indication that, in truth and in fact, there is a yellow list. And it gives the particular article gives a time frame of 60 days. So if there is a yellow list, we have not received the information. When does the 60-day period, be set in motion? So all of those things, obviously, we are monitoring very closely. But I want to repeat that we have received absolutely no information through the official channel from the United States of America to that effect.
Foreign companies that are traveling and who are actually doing and trying to get into the system?
No, I don't know, because none of those things were made, very clear. So I do not want to engage in any kind of speculation or even give you opinions. Those issues are flammable. And when you light the match of opinion near those flammable issues, it could be quite dangerous. And so I think we have to wait to see whether this is true, what exact concerns are expressed, and we are going to respond in a responsible fashion.
So that is quite apart from that. I'm just looking at the shifting policies of the US in terms of the foreign policy. What is St. Lucia looking at its current policies, foreign policies? I know we know that the US, its history and its issues with countries like Cuba, Venezuela. We've seen what they announced in the past weeks. Where do we stand? How are we moving forward in all of this? Because do you see implications for the country in terms of our relations with Cuba, Venezuela in particular? What
You see,
does that look like?
don't forget, all of those countries you have mentioned are at the United Nations. So irrespective of which country, we go to the UN, we debate in the UN General Assembly. So one way or the other, we are connected. It's just that certain states do have their disagreements. There is no automaticity for others to get involved. St. Lucia has made it very clear that our position is hemispheric unity. We would like to see every country within the OAS region be part of a wider construct for us to move towards the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. As a small, open, and vulnerable economy, we must immerse ourselves into certain wider structures to give ourselves an opportunity to mobilize greater support for our country. We have had, excellent relations with Cuba over the years. We are not engaging any ideological battle with anybody. As a matter of fact, Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre will discourage any such effort. So we are going to deal with the US at the bilateral level. We are going to deal with Cuba at the bilateral level and the rest of the countries that we have relations with. Cuba is a Caribbean island. It is the biggest Caribbean island, and we have had a historical relationship with Cuba. And no doubt, the United States has an embargo on Cuba for more than 6 decades. And if they ask St. Lucia, in the context of those relations, are you violating any international law or any international arrangement, we have to respond. So once we are maneuvering within the parameters of international law and we are meeting our international obligations, then I do not anticipate any difficulty. But nothing is static. It is a situation where you deal with it as you move along. So St. Lucia cannot assume a rigid posture today and say, this is what we are not going to do and this is what we are going to do. We are very flexible, and this is what external relations are all about.
Two questions. Sorry, Chloe, then Rachel. Can you just elaborate more on the diplomatic influence on the Cuban documents?
Yeah. Yeah, it just spoke about the United States, its concern about forced labor, right? So that's basically what it is, that we have Cuban doctors in St. Lucia and nurses, and then the government is the one of Cuba benefiting. So we assured them that this is not the particular arrangements we have. We have arrangements with the professionals that work for us in St. Lucia.
Yeah, that's so, Minister, outside of the diplomatic, and immigration, there's black market. Like just like there's second-hand cigarettes being distributed. The issue of human trafficking is into the black market area. Is as a region, you said had discussions where is the region aware of this black market, device or procedures going on that may affect the stability of the islands in terms of movements of people, movements of workers. Is that an area of concern for the region?
Well, everything must be of concern to us. Right now, you have the drug trade, you have transnational, organizations that operate. Obviously, if human trafficking is in the global marketplace, we need to guard ourselves against it. And as a government, we are always going to push back against that. So, we are monitoring very closely, and if there's any issue, we would respond to it. All right. Have a good day.
Yes.